What's going on, everyone? Could Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant be going to the New York Knicks this offseason? Now, it's no shock that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are essentially a package deal, right? They both wanted to go to the same team to play together. Kevin Durant said that publicly. He wanted to follow Kyrie and they wanted to team up and work together. The best friends, things like that. It was a great situation. But Kevin Durant also revealed recently that he actually had intentions to go to the New York Knicks, but Kyrie wanted to go home to Brooklyn. Now, that's why they ended up both going to Brooklyn, because they had the salary spots for both players. So it was a perfect scenario, right? Kevin Durant didn't really care which New York team. He just wanted to go and play with his buddy Kevin Durant. But when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, they know that they are a package deal as well, but Brooklyn seems all but done with Kyrie Irving. They seem ready and willing to move off of Kyrie. And if that's the case, word is that Kevin Durant very likely is going to request a trade and want to be left elsewhere. Now, teams that may know that and may be in a position to do that and obtain and acquire both players could easily try to do that, right? So the New York Knicks could be one of those teams. They could even just sign Kyrie in the following offseason. Let's say Kyrie opts in, then New York next year, they could sign him and trade for Kevin Durant. It could be a perfect scenario for the New York Knicks to kind of come in on the Brooklyn situation, because Brooklyn doesn't seem to want Kyrie Irving. Of course, they want to keep and would love to keep Kevin Durant, but there's no guarantee for that. Now, of course, Kevin Durant could stay, but if Kyrie did go to New York, it's very likely Kevin Durant could say, hey, I don't want to play against him, 4 nights, 4 games out of the year. I want to play with him. So why don't I just go down the street and boom, there we go. Now, I do think that a package is kind of difficult for a Kevin Durant, but if Kevin Durant buys into it and basically tells the Brooklyn Nets, I'm not going anywhere besides the New York Knicks because that's where Kyrie Irving's going, then of course that means that doesn't really matter which you trade. So obviously you got to do something that would entice the Brooklyn Nets, because Kevin Durant, at the end of the day, even if he says he wants to go there, Brooklyn doesn't have to honor that. They don't have to do anything. They could trade him to the best package available. So very likely you're giving RJ Barrett away. You're probably giving Quickly away. You got to imagine Julius Randle to match salary, stuff like that. But you're going to have to give up likely some draft picks. If they were to make the trade this offseason, maybe you give up the 11th pick and maybe future picks. But most likely you're going to have to give up RJ Barrett and you're going to have to give up Quickly, because if I'm the Knicks, I would want to keep Mitchell Robinson. I would want to keep Mitchell Robinson as your center, and then you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but you got that shot-blocking center that can score, put the ball in the hoop. So that's the route that I would go personally if I was them. But of course, you could do interchangeable pieces. So let me know which players you would like to see down in the comment section below. But ultimately, I think you have to get rid of RJ Barrett. Not just that, but you have Kevin Durant, you have Kyrie Irving. RJ becomes sort of a non-factor in many ways. Yeah, he becomes a third option, but he's young. He needs to develop. He needs to go to a team that can allow him to do that. So you're kind of like, okay, RJ, you're going to go, down to Brooklyn and they can build around you, and it's a good scenario. New York Knicks are of course, going to have to throw in draft pick stuff like that. It's going to require a little leverage from Kevin Durant, but ultimately, I do think it is a very achievable thing. The New York Knicks want a star, and they are desperate too. That's the other thing. So New York may be willing to deal with whatever they have to deal with and are willing to take on both players, knowing that Kyrie Irving is going to be a major headache and may be inconsistent and all of those things. But if you can get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, especially in a Knicks uniform, I think you have to do it, because one, the owner, he could care less. He just cares about the butts and seats and making the money. So, Dolan, he just looks at it as like, get those two players, it's going to make me a bunch of money. And for the actual team itself, you'd still have a quality team. You'd still have cap space that you could build around these two guys. Kyrie Irving hopefully buys in. He's not, at war with the front office. Kevin Durant hasn't even talked to the front office since they were eliminated in the playoffs. So, there seems to be issues with the owner. Sean Marks even met with the Lakers to talk about the Kyrie Irving situation. So there's just a big mess in Brooklyn right now, sort of centered around Kyrie Irving. But if you're the Knicks, you'd welcome that headache. I mean, you you've had headaches for the last 30 years, but the difference is you haven't had a contending team. You haven't had a winning team. Well, if you have Robinson, you have Kevin Durant, you have Kyrie Irving, that's a great start in the direction of having a winning team, and maybe Kyrie and Kevin Durant will buy into it more. They would also very likely have more control in many ways as to players and stuff like that than they do on Brooklyn. I just think you'd also have a actual coach in Thibodeau as opposed to Steve Nash, although Thibodeau, I'm not big on him. I never really have been. Plus, he works his players to the bone, and we've seen Kevin Durant the last couple years just get exhausted and worn down and not be the same KD, and it really affects in the playoffs. So I don't know if Thibodeau would be your guy, but I mean, the whole point ultimately is just to get these two in a Knicks jersey. Like, if you're the New York Knicks, you were desperate for a star. You were desperate to just be relevant again, right? You're one of the biggest markets in sports, period. You need this to keep people excited. The fans in New York would go crazy if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were on the same team. I mean, there have been rumors of players going to the Knicks since, LeBron and the decision. Like, that was one of the destinations everyone thought that they were going to team up there. And then Carmelo Anthony went there, and people thought that they were going to be a contender with, Tyson Chandler, Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, and they just weren't very good. They were second-round exits every year until ultimately Carmelo Anthony ended up leaving the Knicks. So the Knicks would love to be in that situation. I'm sure that they would love to deal with the Kyrie Irving headaches that come with getting him, but also a lot of the headaches may be past him. It might be in the rearview mirror now that the stipulations and regulations and stuff like that when it comes to New York aren't what they were, several months ago when Kyrie was really having those issues. So I think that maybe New York could get the best version of the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving as opposed to Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn, the first year, they didn't even have them on the court. And it's just been a disaster after disaster. Brooklyn just kind of wipes their hands clean, just says, hey, it didn't work. We tried. Let's do something else. Because I really do think Kevin Durant is a huge likelihood to just bail on Brooklyn if Kyrie is gone. Because the last sort of point that I'll make is that Kyrie Irving isn't going to get a great trade package. You're very likely not going to get anything, if at all, for Kyrie Irving, because there's only a handful of teams that would likely take them, New York Knicks likely being one of them. But outside of those handful of teams, like even them, they're not going to trade anything significant for Kyrie Irving because, one, he's a headache. Two, they don't want to deal with the hassle. Three, he's unreliable. Four, every team he's been on has been better without him. I mean, literally every team that, like the Boston Celtics are in the finals and very likely could win a championship as soon as they got rid of him. So it's a bad look either way. And so you're not going to get peanuts for Kyrie Irving. That makes Kevin Durant surrounded by a bunch of role players. I don't think he'd be happy. I just don't see that. Unless you did the Russell Westbrook trade, which I know a lot of people hate the idea of Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook, but the benefit is that once you move off of it, you have all that cap space to go get Kevin Durant another guy. And maybe you can kind of sell him in on that. Like, hey, we're going to trade Kyrie, try to get whatever little pieces we can, maybe a THT or something like that. And we'll trade Westbrook, we'll get some picks, whatever. And then do a year with Westbrook. You two have been to the finals. You guys have been to Western Conference Finals. You two ride it out, and then the contract's up, and we can go get you whoever you want. I think that that's at least a selling point for Kevin Durant rather than, hey, it's just you and a bunch of role players you're not going to win with, and you're going to be a first-round exit every year. I just don't see that being the case. And if Kyrie leaves, I really think Kevin Durant's going to leave too. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think about the possibility of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to the New York Knicks? I mean, the New York Knicks would be able to sign Kyrie, and they'd be able to trade for Kevin Durant. I mean, in reality, they could probably trade for both of them if they both said, hey, we're done in Brooklyn. Like, if Kyrie says, I'm done in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn agrees and says, okay, we're not going to extend you, Kyrie Irving could say, sign and trade me, trade Kevin Durant, we're going to New York. You don't want us? Okay, fine. We'll go to New York. I mean, there are several options for the New York Knicks to actually get to these two players, and I do think it's a real possibility. I really think it's a way for New York to be relevant. I think that they would be more than happy to have both of them on the team as opposed to Brooklyn, who just seems done. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting thing, but I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And would you even want this? If you're a New York Knicks fan, would you even want both of them on the team? Are you like, no, I don't need the headache. I don't want the headache. Let's build and grow our young players. Because if you end up trading for both of them, you're pretty much gutting your entire roster to get these two. But like I said, if you can keep Mitchell Robinson, and essentially trade everyone else, maybe keep Derrick Rose. So you have Derrick Rose, Mitchell Robinson, and then these two, Derrick Rose coming off the bench. At least when Kyrie's not playing, you have Rose to start next to Kevin Durant. I mean, that's a good core four to kind of build for the future. I do. I think that or at least the near future. But anyway, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.